This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Brad Martin on changes at the University of Memphis, tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for joining us. We are joined tonight by Brad Martin, interim president of the University of Memphis. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Also, Bill Dries, senior reporter with the Memphis Daily News. You took over as interim president in July. As we were saying before the show, you got really involved in the spring. You've got an ambitious agenda, and we're going to try to walk through all these various changes and proposals you've started or trying to start. Universities, colleges are notoriously and maybe stereotypically resistant to change. How do you make change in a short period of time at a university?
Well, the University of Memphis has an extraordinary amount of talent resident on the campus, and I think a very ambitious group of people associated with the university. So getting focused around a few things in a short period of time was not terribly difficult, and we have a wonderful team there that has embraced the idea that there are a few fundamental things that if we were able to impact could really accelerate a great future for the university.
So what are some of those fundamental things?
Well, first is we decided that we've just simply got to grow. We have a product that is in dire need in this community, in this region, and that is higher education and the ability to have the opportunity for better employment opportunities, to grow in one's emotional life and spiritual life and intellectual life, and the ability to share that with more people is an ambition we have for the university. We have about 22,000 students we serve today. We can serve a lot more than that. So we set about very intentionally trying to grow the university. We are aggressive in our goals while maintaining very high standards, and think we will in the years ahead have significantly expanded our reach by these initiatives.
And then the other thing you've talked about is graduation rates or completion rates. Right now, it's under the national average. If the national average is right around 55%, U of M is?
Yeah, we're in the mid-40s, and that's not good enough. And again, if you look at why do we exist to provide higher education and to do it and to help people succeed. And so in K through 12 these days, there is a huge focus on student success, and we measure year after year the value that is added along the way for student success. Well, we're doing that at the University of Memphis as well. Again, maintaining rigorous standards, but ensuring that those who teach the students at the university and those of us on the staff who support the students at the university are dedicated to their success.
Bill.
Brad, when you first started this mission, you talked about the parallels between students completing or graduating from the college and what happens with the athletic department and the effort that goes into making sure that those athletes graduate on time. Are there parallels? Are there things that can be applied to that effort with student athletes that can go broader and scale up for all or most students at the University of Memphis?
Well, there are a lot of parallels, indeed. And if you look at the extraordinary record of University of Memphis athletics, and particularly the basketball program that we are all enjoying right now, men's and women's, it's really incredible the academic performance that we have enjoyed. And student athletes at the university perform in the aggregate at a significantly higher level on graduation than the balance of the student body. And so if you think about that, it's not that they have more time on their hands. They have very rigorous practice or training or travel schedules associated with what they do. But there's an infrastructure in place. We help them on the path they choose for their education. We provide resources to help them learn better. And we're very intentional about it. And so we're in the process of doing more and more of that for our students across the campus and across all elements of the institution, providing that intellectual, academic, and personal support.
And Shelby County Schools, the school board, as well as the superintendent, Dorsey Hobson, have a goal of third graders being at or above grade level in terms of reading, basic literacy skills. And as I understand it from talking to you and talking to Superintendent Dorsey Hobson, there are some pilot programs that the school system will be engaging in the next school year starting this August. As I understand it, the university is going to be part of those efforts?
Yes, we have a fabulous partnership with the Shelby County Schools and with all of the school districts in the region. And being there to help provide these solutions as our education system, our K through 12 education system goes through this extraordinary transformation is about as important of an element of our mission as we have.
Do the students come prepared? I mean, is that one thing that hurts that graduation rate? That you're actually, the university's ready to move on to college level courses, but they aren't prepared for college level courses?
Well, I think that, that's a common belief. I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure that students are any less prepared for college than I was when I went to college. And so when we look at the performance, the academic performance of our students who do not graduate, invariably it's not just academics. It's financial, it is family, it is some sort of an emotional or social issue that's come up. Only probably about 10% of our students that do not finish clearly can't do the work or have not been able to do the work at that level. And so we are attacking, on the financial front, for example, we have a number of students that have significant college credit but have dropped out along the way because they needed to work or because they had a family or there was an illness. And we are identifying those students. We are inviting them back. We are giving them support to find the right path, and we're helping them finish.
You're also, along those lines, working with veterans who are returning, and more veterans will be returning at the end of this year as we wind down our involvement in Afghanistan as well. The university certainly has seen an influx of veterans over its very long history. How is this group of veterans different in their approach to returning to higher education or beginning higher education?
Well, it's interesting when you mentioned that about the history. I've actually, in the archives, seen some fabulous pictures of those who returned from World War I and World War II at the University of Memphis. And you can bet they were very serious students after they had come back from those conflicts. And I think that's what we find from all of our experiences with our veterans. They are serious, they are intentional, and they are there to succeed. We just recently opened our Veterans Center, Veterans Affairs Center at the University of Memphis to provide just another set of resources and infrastructure to support those who have served the country. But one fundamental thing I think is different than perhaps in the past is that many of our veterans have already had higher education experiences online, even while they have served in Afghanistan or Iraq or in other places. So the ability to pick up where they are in their education and help them continue to the next level is a kind of a new and unique opportunity versus perhaps what we've had in the past.
And I think the head count has been about 600 veterans, although you're trying to identify who the veterans are because in some cases they may be attending the university, but you're not necessarily aware of that.
Well, that's right. We want to celebrate their service too and make sure that any programs or benefits that exist, that they have access to those. And also we want to be known as a place that welcomes and loves the idea of veterans being part of our program and part of our graduates.
You talk about putting resources to help students, veterans, and other students who hit whatever sort of roadblock. At the same time, though, you've talked about, you've had to cut, I think, people, you've got to manage your expenses, your enrollment is not where it needs to be. It's an expensive operation. Mm-hmm. How do you provide more support at a time when maybe revenue, tuition is stagnant, and you're already under pressure to cut costs?
Well, you've got to be more efficient. You've got to allocate resources strategically, and that's what I think our team's doing a wonderful job of getting that done. I mean, if you look at how the University of Memphis is funded, you have two basic revenue sources. One's tuition and one's the state of Tennessee. The state of Tennessee funds the University of Memphis based on the number of students we successfully serve. Basically, how many do we graduate? Well, that's a reasonable proposition, I think. If you're going to successfully offer a degree and students complete, you got to get paid by the state for that. About 2/3 of our funding today, though, comes from student tuition, about 1/3 from the state. If you look back 10 or 12 years, that's flipped completely. Over the last 22 years, we have raised tuition every year at the University of Memphis to make up for the declining state appropriation and the increased cost. This year, we didn't do that. We're not going to raise tuition this coming year. We think enough is enough. We think we're very serious about growing our enrollment, improving our success rate, and that will generate incremental revenue dollars in tuition and incremental revenue dollars from the state. But having said that, when we look at the numbers, we see that we have 6% more members of the faculty than we did in 2008 or 2009. We have fewer students. We have 2% more staff than we did in 2008 and 2009. We have fewer students. So we're not immune from the laws of economics and the need to have very effective resource allocation, and that's what we're in the process of doing.
So,
Go ahead.
so how has the discussion been with the Board of Regents about tuition and it increasing or it not increasing?
Oh, I think that we're completely in sync in that regard. The Board of Regents has been a wonderful supporter of the University of Memphis, and they give us a lot of opportunity to define our own future and to develop our strategies, and they're very, very supportive in that regard. And I think you will find that with no tuition increase, we will have a substantial year-over-year increase in revenues if we achieve our enrollment goals.
Because you'll get new and retention.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
think we're going to keep more students. We're already we're seeing that early indications. We think we're going to increase our admissions and
Right.
transfers significantly.
And you talk about this, I was going to say before, as you talked about 2%, 6% return on investment. You sound like a business guy. People who don't know you, you are a business guy. You're not somebody who comes out of the world of academia.
No
You're
question.
a former CEO of Saks. And so I assume you come at this from that business. I mean, it may be a nonprofit, but it's still got to have a solid balance sheet and balance its revenues and expenses.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're obligated every year to submit a balanced budget and operate with a balanced budget. So we will clearly do that. The university took a real hit in the 2008 financial crisis, as the state did, with the budget appropriations. We also received during that period stimulus money, and the stimulus money's gone. So the ability to bridge our cost structure with this declining revenue has gone away. There's no special money around or special fund to draw on. And so, we're going to operate the place very consistent with our vision, which is to serve more students, to conduct world-class research, to serve this community and beyond. We're hopefully going to do that with a lot more people. We're going to do it successfully, but we're going to do it with a balanced budget.
What about, a lot of what you're talking about are national trends with higher education. I mean, state schools that saw their funding really shrink and have had to raise tuition. I mean, it's kind of, some people call it the next healthcare crisis. I mean, that higher ed is on this trajectory of constant increases that just aren't sustainable. Another part of that is high debt levels with students. Do you guys track that with University of Memphis students and what their debt levels tend to be, and does that concern you?
Well, the cost of higher education clearly has escalated far in excess of general cost increases, and I think those days are over. We do care a lot about student debt, and
Parents across the viewing audience just screamed in joy.
Yeah, I mean, we do care a lot about student debt. But if you look, the University of Memphis is still a bargain. I mean, it's a bargain at $9,000 for a year for the quality of what you receive, tuition. The state gives us, say, $5,000 per student served successfully, although not unless they happen to be Tennessee residents, which is another big challenge that we have. But it's a fair bargain. It's absolutely a fair bargain, and we have substantial both federal programs, state programs, and then generous scholarships that have been provided by donors. So affordability generally is not a big issue at the University of Memphis. We can help you figure out how to get that done if you want to do it.
Should there be an exception? Let's talk about out-of-state tuition. Should the state make an exception, as has happened in other states, for students who may live out of state but who live just beyond the border in a state that has more states bordering it than any other state?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even understand how the concept of an in-state or out-of-state student works in 2014 when so much of our education is online. And what's the digital border between North Alabama and Memphis if you're taking 3 classes online? I think it's nuts. But to your very specific point, we have about 1,000 students at the University of Memphis who come from border counties to Shelby County that are in Mississippi or Arkansas. Now, those people are going to be school teachers, nurses, scientists, engineers. They're going to work in this greater Memphis community. We are desperate to have more college-educated workers in the greater Memphis community. The state contributes not a dime to the operating cost of us serving those 1,000 students. I think it's nuts if it is part of our comprehensive strategy that we have more and more of our population with a higher education degree.
You've talked about teachers a number of times here, and some people, we spoke to the governor, what will be last week, about all the education reforms going on in Tennessee, but in Memphis specifically. Some people call it, Teacher Town, Young Teach for America, the charter schools.
Absolutely.
What's the U of M's role now in that notion of ground zero for education and teacher reform, and what do you want it to get more involved in that,
Yes.
that world of the new teacher and the new education approaches? Talk about that.
Well, the University of Memphis has historically provided most of the teachers that teach in this community and has provided many outstanding teachers that teach in this community. Over the last 2 years, the college has really upgraded its programming, its clinical approach, which is where it all happens, in the classroom, working with and observing and participating with great teachers. That's been part of the change in the evolution of the program at the University of Memphis. We've staked out a claim that said we intend to be the principal provider of great teachers for this community and beyond for years to come. We also have some very, very unique needs in this community, urban education being a great illustration of that. We think there's a role for the University of Memphis to play, perhaps like no one else plays, in producing great teachers who want to work in very urban, historically difficult to teach in schools. And so we are very serious and intentional about building that capacity in the months ahead.
The state education department also took a look at some of the numbers and I think identified some challenges in those numbers at the College of Education. Is that a case of the numbers reflecting what was there 2 years before, or are there some challenges that you're trying to clear at this point?
I think all the above. And I think what you're referring to, Bill, is as I said earlier, that we now measure the value added, the performance each year of a child in K through 12 and measure the performance of the teacher based upon that value add, or that rate of advancement. And if you look historically in Tennessee, the public higher ed colleges have not fared as well as some of the more reform-oriented sources of teachers that we now have and we're blessed to have in the state of Tennessee. When we look at our recent graduates, those that have enjoyed the revised clinical experiences and focus, we're seeing much higher performance. So we get it with respect to the need to be accountable and to perform and to compete with others who want to be great teachers and want to work in this marketplace. And we welcome the observation and the measurements on a go-forward basis.
Shift gears just a little bit to the South Campus. There's, you're talking about these changes and managing your expenses. You're in the middle of a big capital campaign. There's a big shift of some facilities down to the South Campus, park and Goodlet, that area. Talk about what's going on down there.
Well, I really call it the Park Avenue campus, and in the days ahead, actually the months ahead, you'll see it opened up to Park Avenue, where we will see Goodlet Boulevard go straight into the University of Memphis campus there.
Right at the corner of Audubon Park.
Exactly,
right?
at the corner of Audubon Park. And for those who've not been back there lately, we have all of our outstanding football practice facilities, our great baseball fields, soccer, women's softball, track, terrific number of athletic facilities. We have under construction our new health complex, which will hold our nursing school, which will house our communication and sciences and disorders. Our public health college is located there. So we already have some sensational, important programming and support facilities there. And we're really starting to think long-term about that being not only an extension of the campus, but something that is much more accessible and available and integrated with the overall community.
Go ahead, Bill.
And you made, I think, 25% of your goal with a donation from Bill Laurie.
Yes, we said we were going to, Athletic Director Bowen has launched a $40 million campaign to upgrade the athletic facilities, all private capital, and the Laurie family, Bill and Nancy Laurie, Bill and Nancy, former graduates University of Memphis, made the largest gift in the history of Tiger athletics with a $10 million gift to that effort.
And the nursing building, I think you talked about, that was partly, in part funded $60 million or $45 million from the state last year.
And the balance from private donors
yeah.
and many of the foundations
Right.
and enterprises in Memphis.
What's going on Highland Row? So Highland on the west side of the campus. There's been talk of a real redevelopment there. It went quiet during the recession, as did a lot of developments. Right. But then recently, the plans got waylaid a little bit by the state building. It was very complicated. That they didn't want the name of the University of Memphis on that project. What's going on with Highland Row?
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, there may have been some technical impediments,
okay.
but I don't think the state. I don't think the state was a significant problem. There are a variety of private developments adjacent to the campus that are either proposed or underway. We love them.
Okay.
We welcome them.
Yeah.
It makes the environment there more attractive for our students. We want the university to be more integrated with the neighborhood and vice versa. So we welcome and support and encourage great development in the neighborhood.
And just 4 minutes left, Bill.
Fill us in on the latest on Audubon Park, because you've been talking with the city, and there have been the persistent talk of an on-campus arena tends to surface whenever you talk about Audubon Park or any park-like setting. So where are the talks, and what are your plans for Audubon Park?
Well, what I suggested to the mayor at the beginning of my term, as I was looking at the overall physical campus and the neighborhood and thinking about the next 50 to 100 years, that when we complete this process on Park Avenue ultimately, and we have opened up Park Avenue and the University of Memphis in a much broader way to the overall community, wouldn't it be nice if we could incorporate Audubon Park in that? Audubon Park is a jewel. It can be a lot better than it is today. It has phenomenal programming in it, like the Botanic Gardens and all of those related activities. The Dixon, the Theater Memphis, many arts institutions right there nearby. And we've raised our hands and said, we'd like to think about that being something that the university helps program on behalf of the community in a general partnership long term. There's no set of circumstances where we need an on-campus stadium, an on-campus arena, and in the letter I sent the mayor proposing this partnership, I specifically said a term of the partnership would be prohibited. So it's not a consideration.
Just a couple months left. We haven't really talked much about athletics, and a lot of people, when you say University of Memphis, they think Tigers basketball first and maybe the other. How much time do you spend focused on Tigers athletics? Is it a consuming part of the job?
No.
Because some people would think that.
Yeah,
you know?
no. From a personal standpoint, I'd love to go to the games, but I went to the games before I was
Right.
serving as president, and I sit in the same seats that I did then and will when I'm
Right,
finished
right.
with this. No, it's an integral part of the university, but today I spent the morning at the campus school. I didn't get to go to the basketball game last night, but it's an integral part. But I think is it an important part of our brand? Yes.
Right.
Is it reflecting the brand that we aspire to? Competitive excellence, academic excellence, terrific service in the community?
Right.
Yes.
We could talk about this for 25 minutes. Conference realignment is a huge deal. The Tigers have moved into what was the Big East, is now the AAC, but there's still all this. Are you in conversation about those kinds of things? I mean, there's a lot of money, a lot of stature, a lot of exposure associated with that. It's not just sports.
Yes.
Conference realignment.
Yeah, am I involved in that somewhat? Yes. I am thrilled with the conference that we are in at the moment. If you look at the football performance this past year, we clearly ran into a lot of buzzsaws in that conference who went out in bowl games and performed superbly.
Right.
Basketball, it doesn't get any tougher than the conference that we're in right now. I think we've got a terrific alignment at the moment. Is it likely to change in the years ahead? Probably. Will we be well positioned if it does? Yes.
So, do you take bets on ACC or Big 12 or what sort of big conference that the University of Memphis could end up
No,
in?
I think if we keep on doing what we are doing across the board, and if our football program gets to where I think it's going to be, we can probably write our own ticket.
All right. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bill, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.